Hey guys, Kyle Miller, Auto Mortgage Agent with Mortgage Brokers Ottawa. Doing this recording today solo because I figured for this topic, it's probably a little bit, it's kind of a situation where I don't know they want to put anybody on the spot for it, so I'll put myself on the spot for it. We've been talking a lot over the last few months with, just Financial Literacy Month was a few months ago. We did a bunch of reels on that. With the new spring market coming up, definitely going to be something for people looking to get in. We just talked about investments. So I think the big thing that we haven't touched on yet really is budgeting. And as boring as that is, and believe me, it is boring. It's so integral to what people need to do in terms of whether it's anything, just living, or specifically buying a house, or even just maintaining, just maintaining what you do. And I thought the best thing to do was just share a little bit about my story, and kind of my setup that I've learned to create with some help, because it's I don't talk about stuff that I don't know. I don't talk about stuff that I don't go through, because that's just what I do. So I did it, and that's the thing. And as I get into this, I don't want anybody to think that this is coming down on anybody, like that teachers failed me or school failed me at budgeting, or parents didn't teach me anything. That's not it. It's just at some point, right, you just decide you want to make a change in some aspect, and you look back and say that was I taught that? Did I miss something? Like, what is that? And if you need more, you go out and find the resources to get you what you need. And that's what we did. I say we because my wife and I are doing it, but that's what we did, right? I was at a point in my business where things were going well, things are going well, and I was not satisfied with how money management was going. And I sat there and I had asked my circle, right? My family and a couple friends and stuff like that, who I thought were better at this than I was. Because I think that's the one big thing. I think right off the top, budgeting is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. The concept is, I bring in this much, don't spend more than that. Budget, like that's typically it, right? But it's not necessarily easy to do, because tools, just the way people learn, temptation, the fact that heck, Instagram makes you want things you don't even know you want, and credit is easy to get, and it's easy to use, and it's easy to spend, and it's not easy to pay back. So there's a whole bunch of things that work against each other when you're talking about stuff like budgeting. And in this day and age too, if we just keep it to mortgages itself, we're in unprecedented times of where incomes are good but still significantly lower than where they need to be in terms of, in general, trying to get the house that you want to get on the property ladder. So that in itself is going to take more work than a lot of other generations and people have ever had to do, because of just timing, right? So it's going to be it's going to be more important now than ever to really tighten this down in terms of budgeting and money management as an overall literal skill set, right? And that's true when the school system starts to put it in place, finally, right? Because that Pythagorean theorem, as cool as it is, just isn't cutting the mustard when it comes to knowing how to do your taxes and save a little bit extra money for your down payment. So thanks, guys. Now, I think one of the first things you got to do if you're looking to budget is establish where you're at, right? I looked at what I was doing and I was like, look, I'm just kind of willy-nilly. Like, money's coming in, I'm spending it, everything's paid, but there isn't much left. I don't know where it's all going, right? Not a good plan. So with that, it's understanding and being able to admit that you may not be good at everything you wish you were good at, right? And if budgeting's one of them, then the first thing you're going to do is say, I'm not that good at it. And that's okay. You were probably never taught it, right? It's not a course necessarily. I'll tell you that it is, but growing up, it's not necessarily a course that they just get you to take, right? And lots of times it's more so, I feel like it's thrown into the common sense pile. Like, we should just know that. Well, how? Like, I don't know that, right? And it's because it's also subject to interpretation, and it's never like ingrained. You're a kid getting an allowance, for doing stuff and saving and everything like that. That's great. But then you go out for dinner and your parents pay. Well, you're still used to going out for dinner. You didn't have to give any money to do that, right? So you get a taste for something that you may not be able to afford, and then one day it's just like stops because you don't live at home anymore, right? And that's where those habits that have been created as, kind of the peripheral, right, can sometimes come back to haunt you. So just understanding that basics of, hey, admitting it, hey, I'm not the best at this, but I'm gonna find someone to help me and do that. And I think that's the next thing. You've admitted that you need help. Great. It's gonna sound like a self-help seminar, and I didn't really want it to, but you admitted that there's a problem. So what are you gonna do to get help? Where can you go to get help in terms of budgeting? And I'll tell you right now, right away, there's your inner circle, right? Friends, family, parents, whatever. I will also say this. Sometimes that's embarrassing. Let's be honest. Sometimes you don't want to admit that you're not good at something in front of those people, right? It's easier to talk to, a room full of strangers than it is to be at a cocktail party. It's kind of that same thing, right, in my head. So maybe you don't want to go there to get that help, right? And if you don't, that's fine. But where do you go? It's 2022. I am just of the mind that I am not that special. And what I mean by that is somebody else in the world has probably gone through and experienced the thing I'm going through right now, and they've got through it. And if they have, because it's 2022, they've documented that, and it's probably on YouTube, or at least on Google. So start there. Like, that sounds simple, but it's true. Start there. You hit Google, right, on I need budget, right? Budget help, something's coming up. Whether it's an Excel sheet for free, whether it's a Google sheet for free, whether it's a YouTube channel, anything. It's probably there. So start there and see what happens. That's what I did, right? I was looking at something one night, mentioned something, I think, to my phone, so that's why it sent me an ad. And I clicked on it, and there was his financial coaching. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm at the point in my life where I don't just want the basics. I want something extra. I need something more than just, well, this much money comes in and this much money goes out. Like, I get that, but I needed something more, right? So that's what I paid for. I did paid financial coaching, right? It sounds counterintuitive, but that's what I did. So, and from there, if nothing else, the tools they had were just more advanced. And again, they're still just spreadsheets these guys were using and a workbook, right? It was literally like a kind of a university style course, if you will. But those tools they had were worth all the money I paid. If I just paid for those tools and they gave them to me with an hour seminar, I would have been good, right? And that's the thing. So because of those tools, I was able to readjust how I personally did things, and I like those tools. And that's the next key, is just trying to find what works for you. Is it paid coaching like that, right? Is it the tools on Excel or something like that? Is it is it paper? Is it just a budget? Is it just a budget journal? Like, whatever it is, that's what you have to kind of sort through and figure out, right? And if you're listening to this thinking like, okay, when's he going to get to the part where it's like, just like bang, 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 do this, 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 this? I'm probably not, because that's not how it worked for me, right? The story that basically goes with this, and there'll be some other stuff, I guess some points to this, is that I looked at my stuff and said, I want to do better. That's it. Everything was fine. I just wanted it to be better. I wanted it to be more efficient. I wanted it to be more clear-cut, and I wanted to get ahead on a couple different things. So I got the paid coaching. That's what I did, right? And when I got into that coaching, the first thing we had to do was basically do work. And makes sense. But the work was data collection. And this is a huge thing that I've understood now. Data's data. It's real. It's fact. There's no emotion. Money has a lot of emotion attached to it. And that's what gets people in trouble. Like, if you talk to some divorce lawyer or some therapist, I'm sure they're going to tell you what's the top 2 reasons people get divorced, right? Like infidelity and money. in no particular order. I'm not really sure. Someone can look that up. But it's up there. For sure it's up there, right? Because it's just emotions surround money. And the thing about what the coach kind of taught me to do was just, and she didn't say it, it just happened, is the data doesn't lie, right? Most budgets happen that I've experienced have always been like, well, I bring in this much money, fact. And looked like I spent this much money. Weird. Wonder how that happened, right? And then you kind of roll back through your head and be like, no, it seemed like everything was fine. Like I just spent the money that I usually spend on, like nothing crazy that month, right? But when you actually stop, look at where you spent every cent, whether that's through debit, through cash, if you catalog it, like write it down. Like when I was a server, always wrote down my tips so I knew exactly how much money was coming in, right? And then start writing down where I was spending some of that cash, because cash bleeds. As beautiful as it is, it was a good time, but it goes away pretty quick, as much quickly as it comes in, right? You start saying, that's it. The data you gather takes the emotion out of it. So if there's a tip here, outside of get some help and get some tools, the first two things, it's write it down, right? Like write it down. And that's what she had us do. So in my experience, we actually went back a full year. She gave me the homework. She said, here's this spreadsheet. I want you to take this spreadsheet and I want you to fill it in, right? It had everything. It had how much income did you pull in, and not just off taxes, like just how much income comes in every month, average that out, right? Your wife's income, put that in there. Then I want you to go back through, and she had a list of like, man, it could have been 50, I don't remember, 25, 30, 40 different categories of things that we could have spent money on. And we just started plugging those in, right? And it's the same stuff you usually have, but it just got more detailed. So it was like your fixed expenses, utilities, bang, 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 property taxes, mortgage, right? The utilities that are on auto pay, boom, boom, boom. So we did that. And then it was your variable expenses. So we started looking at, how much you spend on groceries and gas and then, eating out and all this kind of stuff. And people are like, well, where do you get all that data? Well, you're probably spending it on your debit card. It'll be there. Or you're spending on your credit card. It'll also be there. If you spend it on cash, you're going to have a little bit of a tough time. But the one bonus about being self-employed is that I save every receipt. It sucks. But I save every receipt. So I know exactly where this money is gone, right? Because I got to justify it most of the time, or I'm trying to justify it to the government so they don't get smoked on taxes. So that's a bonus for me. But it's a habit to get into. So all that data collection, what that did was it just outlined literally everything we spent that year. And this brings me to a kind of a sub point, but you have to be patient with that. That work sucks. It's boring. It's not fun. But it's needed to know where you can make adjustments to get where you want to go. Because all that money, like I said, it was documented. There was no feeling of where it went. There's no way we spent that much money on booze last year. Yeah, we did. Why? Because it's there. Can't deny it. It's there. We don't spend that much money on gas. I bet you do. Why? Because it's there. That's how much you spent on gas, right? So that data collection takes, in my opinion, takes the emotion out of it, because you can't get angry, you can't get sad. It's just there. You did it. It's gone. So it's gone. Do you want to change it? Yes. There you go. So the data collection is key. When you get the help and you find the tools, the data collection is the key. But it's patient and it's not fun work, right? It's also, from an attitude standpoint, it's extremely humbling, because you look at that and go, we really did spend that kind of money, on that thing, right? And when you do that, it really just, it helps, puts it in perspective of, do we want to do that again? Because by no means am I judging anything, right? I'm not sitting here saying you should not spend money on that. The word I hate most in the English language is should. Kyle, you should do this. You know what you should do, pal? I hate it. Drives me nuts. I should do nothing. You should do nothing. You should do what you're going to do. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. There's no judgment. There's no nothing. Because that's what I feel I can do with anything. Money, friends, family, it doesn't matter. It's what I want to do, right? So there's no should spend money this way, should not spend money that way. But it is a way to look at the data and say, well, I spent all this money here, but if I cut that down, I could spend it over here instead. So I'm not saying don't spend it. I'm just saying if you decide to, you know where to take it from to spend it differently, right? We went out 4 times that month. Had we not, we would have had $200 extra. Oh, and we could have gone $200 to the vacation account, and we could have upgraded to the pool. Data, not feeling, data. So do the data work, do the deep dive, get in there and itemize that stuff. Coming back to this, and then from there, with that data, we were able to categorize things, right? And I mean, and the biggest thing from that data was planning. Planning of that from a budget standpoint was amazing because it put everything on paper. We knew exactly where everything was. We knew exactly what everything we spent on. And we knew that for the most part, that was going to be the life that was going to continue, right? Like my dogs, like the dog, we looked at it, said we had PetSmart here, 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 and here, right? And we were at the groomer here, here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and here. Said, okay, well, we spent X amount of dollars on the dog last year. Yeah. Okay, well, if we assume that's going to happen again because he's not eating any more, he's not eating any less, and he still has to get, shampooed every now and then, right? Then that's what we're probably going to spend again, bar any inflation. So let's just do that. So every month we're just going to put this much money in that bank account. Well, yeah, but we don't spend that. We don't get him groomed every month. It's every other month or every 3 months. Yeah, but we still spend it. So let's just put it there. And when it comes to time to spend it, it's already there. And then it's going to keep building up for next year and just until the poor guy isn't around. And then we'll take that money and we'll move it somewhere else. Okay. Same thing for sports, right? We know we have all the receipts from my daughter's cheerleading and it comes in kind of 2 seasons, right? But we know we spent this much because we documented it. That was the hotels were this, the gas there was this, the competition fees are this, right? Okay, well, what do we spend over, if we average that over 12 months, what do we spend? This much. Cool, let's do that. Smash, right? Every month, right? Yeah, but there's 2 or 3 months she doesn't go to cheer. So what? She will. So let's just put that in there, right? So that's what we did. All of that stemmed from the work of the data collection. The data collection is massive. It's the toughest part. It's the most humbling part. It's the most annoying part. It's not fun, but you do it. And you do it one, and then you're ready. You're ready to set up that system for you to budget, to know where to adjust, right? And that was the other thing. Like we looked at it and said, do we really spend that much money on, our groceries? Yeah. Do we need to? Well, we got to eat. Yeah. But do we have to shop there? Do we have to eat like that? Do we have to, pay for that stuff? And I don't mean like, no, let's go totally processed food and no fruits and vegetables. Or, spend we only buy, expensive tomahawks or Wagyu. No, it's just you're conscious now about what you're spending. And that's the thing. No emotion. It's conscious. You can make the choice. You see the number, you know the number, it's there, right? The other thing that stemmed from that was how we set up and how we're instructed, suggested, to set up our system. Most people have 1, maybe 2 bank accounts. I'll be honest, I'm pretty sure we have 13. I think we have 13 accounts because everything has a place. And because we're always prepping for the stuff we know is coming, expenses, fixed, some variable, some emergency, cheer, hockey at the time, cars, all that stuff, it's all just kind of locked away in there. So if anything happens, like we're short a month or someone got sick, whatever, right? I mean, your life is different than mine. But I don't get paid every 2 weeks, right? I'm a commissioned salesperson. So there's big months, there's some lean months. Not many this time at this stage of my career, but there was, right? So had I had that figured out before, it might have been a little bit better. But that's how it goes. So when you have that capability, like you're always ready, right? And again, it also allows you to look at things, at the end of the year or halfway through, or if you decide not to do something, right? Like you're not going on vacation because COVID killed it. What'd you do with that $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 that you saved? Well, nothing. Do you want to do something with it? It's your money, right? Do you want to invest it in the backyard, buy a hot tub or a portion of a hot tub? Do you just want to put it on the mortgage? Do you want to just invest, put it into crypto? Like, what do you want to do? It's your money, right? That thing you were saving for or budgeting for didn't come up, or the dog passed away and you got all this money left. Poor guy, got all this money left. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with that budget now? Now you know how much you were literally putting aside for that thing, and you don't have to do it anymore. Move it somewhere else. So having the data. No emotion, just data, right? And that was one of the key things. And we have all these different accounts now, and all the money gets moved automatically. And then if we need to adjust, we adjust. And when we want to spend that money, right, we have it and we see it. And that's also our budget, right? If the the dog account is at zero, well, sorry, Axel, you're getting a bath in the tub this month. Because it's a zero. I don't know why it would be zero, but it is, right? That's what it is. And, and we can make those adjustments. So it's just so critical to do that. And that's what this coaching program taught me, and the tools that they gave me, spreadsheets and stuff to use that I could use on a daily to just adjust and do what I got to do. So that was a huge game changer for me. It's just having the tool. So someone out there is going to say, yeah, but Kyle, you told me to go to Google and get that tool. The ones I found I didn't like them. So I got a different one, right? But that other ones might work for you. You might not feel it necessary to go and pay for coaching. That's cool. Doesn't make it awesome. Don't. I did. So that's the way I did it. But from that point, it was the catalyst to being able to budget everything that we wanted to do, right? And that's it. It's admit that you want to be better. I don't want to say get help. But you want to be better at something, right? Research and find the tools that are possible. Look at those tools and find what you need, right? Collect the data. There's no way any of these tools are going to tell you to just go willy-nilly and go off feeling. What does your heart say about your spending? No, it's going to be write it down. Write it all down, right? And put it in there. And then look at it, study it, and adjust based off that for what you can do. And I think the other thing, again, that data collection, just as another quick story, what it does is it allows you to adjust and, again, take the emotion out of it or make changes where you think you might not be able to. I think a good story, one of the tools that I got was simple, but the way it was presented was a Christmas budgeting sheet. And my coach had me write down all the people we bought gifts for in a year. Actually, we did it too. There was Christmas and there was birthdays. So it was write down all the people that you buy gifts for Christmas and write down all the birthdays and what you spent last year. That was a little hit and miss, to be honest, but we did our best with it. And if we just look at birthdays, right? We typically go away as a family for my wife's birthday, and that costs X amount of dollars. And then we had, and then we got my daughter's birthday. So, do we have a party? It costs a little bit more than just getting her a gift and a cake and having a couple friends over, family over, right? What's that? And we took those numbers and split them out over 12 months. And said, if that's what we want to spend, then this is how much we have to put aside for that every single month, right? Same thing for Christmas. We wrote all of it down. And we looked at Christmas specific receipts and we're like, holy crap, that's what we spent on Christmas. But not holy crap, we shouldn't have done that. Holy crap, that's what we did. But do we want to keep doing that? Do we want to keep doing that at Christmas, right? Do we need to spend that kind of money? We can afford it, but do we want to spend it? Because that could go apparently 12 other places easily. So, and that caused us to look back and say, okay, well, maybe we got to change something. Because we don't want to not buy for people. The problem is we enjoy seeing the joy. We love seeing the joy on people's faces when we get them the gifts. We love the gift exchange, always. It's we put time and effort and thought into that. But at the same point, it's hard and it's expensive. And we decided to go a different route this year. And kind of it's the same for everybody in our family, right? And we changed it to be less about the gift, but more about the game and the fun. And in one specific instance, we saved everybody money by suggesting we do something different. Instead of everybody buying for everybody, we're all going to buy these little gifts, and we're going to play this game, and everybody's going to walk away with something. And it was all useful, and everybody loved it. We had a great time. We had some laughs. Boom, Christmas, right? At 1/6 of what it cost us the year before. So, but we couldn't have done that without, say it with me, the data. So the data and understanding that money is so, so key. because it takes the emotion out of it. And in this case, it actually had us thinking differently about how we were, what we were doing with our money, right? So it's key to try to take that emotion out of it, and the data does that. That I can't stress that enough when you write that stuff down. And I think the other thing the data does too is it points you in the direction of what's important to you, right? Because most of you, most likely, if you're saving for a house, are doing it with somebody else, right? There's two of you on this together. It's kind of tough not to do it like that these days. And that's a tough part too, because that's where emotion, things got to align. And when you have the feeling of, I feel like you're doing this, or I feel like you've done that, but the data doesn't support that, it's a shit argument. So at least with that data, you can, again, remove the emotion. You'll hear me, I'm saying it a ton. Take the emotion out of it. It's just data. That's what you did. That's what you do. No questions asked. Yeah, but it's right there. I didn't spend that money. Yeah, you did. Or, you told me I spent this money because you did. Well, yeah, I did. All right, you did. So what are we going to do? Are we keeping doing that, or are we making a change to that? Right? And that's now the discussion. So that data is so important, right? Knowing what you're good at and asking for the help. Finding the right tools for you. That's the other thing. Writing it down, getting the data, right, into something that works for you is important. Doing your best to take the emotion out of it, because it's just data. This is what has to happen, right? This is how you get moving in the direction you want to move. And I think that's one of the final steps. You don't have to do those in order. Who am I? But the final step is understanding why you're doing what you're doing, right? I had no little financial thought to it of just, well, I want to, save X dollars, retirement, rep, the usual stuff. But the other thing was I just wanted to be better at it. I just wanted to be better today than I was yesterday at budgeting and keeping on top of the money, right? Because it was going to make my life better. It's going to be less stressful, just cooler. And that was my why, right? And the byproduct of that was going to be, everything was going to be better. I'm with a better attitude. If I'm better attitude, everybody else has a better attitude, and I can feed off that attitude, and then we're all just happier. Like, look, it's just kumbaya. So that's the point, right? But whatever it is, if it's trying to buy a house, then, and that's important to you, there it is. This is what you have to do. The numbers don't lie, right? If it's trying to soup up the house and get better, that's it. If it's paying off debt, that's it, right? It's finding out your reason and then making sure that reason is the overarching thought of why you're doing this work, right? And then when you have the data, you can manipulate that to your advantage, right? Okay, we're not gonna buy the dog yet. We're not gonna buy the dog yet. Dog's $1,000, and that $1,000 we could take that. It's $1,000 plus it's this much a month, and then the pills, and then all the food. So it's this much actually. Well, if we take that and put it in that house account, man, we're that much closer. We're that much closer. So it allows you to manipulate that because you have the data, right? So that's why I suggest that, and that's why it's so imperative. Like, budgeting doesn't work without the data. It's not an emotional thing. It's really not. So that's where I'd say that's how I would design that, right? And I'm not going to sit here and tell you where to go and get this stuff, right? I worked with a company called Enriched Academy. That's who I worked with, right? They don't pay for this. I'm just throwing it out there. That's who I worked with, okay? I have a colleague who I've done another podcast with. Her name is Julie the Duke. She's a money coach. You talk to her. You Google money coach, right? I know they're out there. You can find them, right? Through my Facebook feed right now, there's been no less than 2 ads coming across for a budget journal and a downloadable Google sheet that has a bunch of different budget stuff on it, right? So it's all available. You just have to want to do it, and commit to putting in the work. It's no different than anything else. That's what you have to commit to doing. It's just doing the work on it. So, but like I said, that was kind of my journey. It was a deep dive into our stuff. It was my wife and I sitting down together for hours. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. It was hours. It was evenings. It was Saturdays. It was punching in. It was arguing over some stuff, right? Because you have to admit some things. But doing that has definitely changed where we are, how we manage money, what we do, right? And it works for both of us. And that's the point. And I think too, in this day and age, it's a great exercise because I think it's easy to rely, personal opinion, it's easy to rely on your partner to do things that you don't like to do or want to do. But I'll tell you, the amount of times I've had to deal with clients who are going through a separation or a divorce and are not prepared to be back on their own because they just let their partner do it, and I'm talking male and female, has never ended well. It's never ended well. It's a lame, apologize, but not, I'm sorry, but not sorry. It's a lame excuse, right? Like, you have to know how to do this. You have to know yourself how to manage this. And working with your partner on a system that works for both of you is just something you can take with you in a bad situation. I don't want that to happen. But if it does, you're both good. You know how to do it. And you can make tweaks if you made a compromise on a few things. So it's such an important part. Like, this is such a boring topic, but it's such an integral topic, right? And you know it's important when schools are starting to do it. Late to the party, mind you, but hey, that's a different argument for a different day. So that's kind of the overarching thing. It's not super detailed. I would totally encourage people, if you want to ask some specific questions, right? I'm not going to tell you how much is in my bank account, but if you want to ask some specific questions, by all means, reach out, right? Like, it's not rocket science. It's not something where I'm like, oh my God, I don't care. This is what we did. We fixed what we wanted to fix. Didn't need fixing? I don't know. We fixed it the way we wanted it to, though. It's like upgrading a house. We didn't need a new kitchen. We just want one. So we got one. But it's there. So if I recap everything again, right? Admit to yourself you want to get better or fix something that you don't believe you're good at. Figure out the direction you want to go, with, whether it's coaching, whether it's just free tools online, whether it's just working with friends, family, whatever, then get that tool, whatever it is for you, get the data. You have to get the data. Write it down, get it in somewhere. You have to get the data, okay? And then understand why you're doing what you're doing. If it's just intrinsic, you want to just get better, cool. If it's more than that, it's a house, it's a debt payment, it is a savings, it is a whatever, great, put that in there. Because with that data and with that why, if you will, you'll have the ability to make those decisions, right? Without that, it's pure emotion, and those can lie to you sometimes. So, but yeah, that's it. That's it for this one. Always appreciate everybody, listening in and seeing what I got to say. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one.